I'm Beth Golding Homes with Remax Advantage, and I'm here today with Camille Scott, and we're just doing a little bit of real estate talk today. So thanks for joining me, Camille.
Thanks for having me, Beth.
Sure thing. Do you want to, if you don't mind, just giving me a little bit of background about you and who you are?
Yes, I consider myself to be a social entrepreneur with the aim of bridging the gap between local residents and essential resources to promote a healthy, more sustainable Baltimore. And I kind of explore that in different facets, one of them being a real estate agent, another one being a founder of an emerging organization named BERI, and then the third is being a musical artist.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So if you don't mind, maybe we can start talking about your nonprofit a little bit and kind of like the beginnings of that and how that came about.
Sure. BERI stands for Building Exceptional Rapport Initiative, and it really does personify my overall mission, just like as a servant of the community, and it serves as an opportunity for local organizations, businesses, and artists to convene with their target demographic to inspire mutual support at a high retention rate. And the idea behind it is like today we live in a world where we were just talking about marketing, being on social platforms and trying to stay top of mind sometimes keeps us out of touch. And I find that face-to-face interactions are at least 3 times more effective than somebody seeing an ad on their Instagram or on their Facebook. Like me meeting Beth Golding is like, wow, I get to feel all of your energy. And sometimes you don't really get that in an ad, right? And so the idea behind it is get everybody in the room, because one thing that I realized that causes one to feel unsafe in a community is when they don't know their neighbors, right? So when we take the opportunity to really build rapport with one another, that's when we're able to kind of break down those barriers, those social barriers, for one, and two, we're able to see what resources we really do have right in our community. So trying to keep that dollar circulating here in the community and support local businesses, support local organizations, support local artists, because that's going to be the foundation for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's definitely true. And I think for some people, because of COVID and technology and what's going on nowadays, I think that sometimes you do feel a little like out of touch and, like being in that, person to person, type of space can be a little awkward or uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
But I think, once you do it and you get to talking to people and everybody's feeling the same way. So it's not like you're feeling any different than anybody else. So just, breaking, like just when we got together recently, it was very nice. Just meeting people and reconnecting with people that we already know and chatting and talking about the spring market and just a whole bunch of things was very, very nice. So
I agree.
I hope that it just continues to grow and grow now that COVID is further and further behind us, even though this kind of technology is amazing, right?
It is. And sometimes it's good to just be able to get up and go into your home office. I don't know if that's ever going to like get old, but like you said, like having the opportunity to just go into a space and that's the other thing too. Like when we only go into our home offices or when we only go into the office, right? We're not making any new connections. I just had this conversation with another professional. I'm like, it took me a while to realize I need to go into new spaces if I want to increase my sphere of influence, which, as we know as agents, is so important. Yeah, we're not meeting new people at the office. We're meeting the same people that we work with, which is great because iron sharpens iron. And that's how I felt when I met you, Beth. Like, oh, this is an awesome opportunity. This is an agent that's very well seasoned. I have a lot to learn, which is always the case, especially for a young person like me. But I do realize that I do need to take the time at least once a week to go into a new space and speak to somebody, a stranger. I know that sounds weird, but we have to speak to strangers.
So true. Yeah, sharpen that iron, like you said. That's so true. Very good words. So if you don't mind talking to me a little bit about like the area of your nonprofit and if you have some type of personal connection to that area.
Well, so the areas that we've served so far has been Northwest Avenue and Howard. I would say the draw was it's a space that I was very familiar with being a part of a band. We had a residency there. And it's almost like a breeding ground for artists because it is like an art house, nonprofit space. And I also noticed a lot of just poverty. It's a very strange space because Micah is right there. So it's like you kind of see the artistic hope and the growth, but you also see tons of rundown buildings, commercial and residential. You see homelessness right there at the light, 24/7. Just makes me feel like I don't like this. Like this is kind of bothering. We will drive here every day, but do we really take the time to consider what's happening, right? Do we really take the time to connect with the people here and see what's missing? That's a question I love to ask. What's missing, or what resources are you lacking in your community? And how can we provide a solution for that? And that's really what BERI is in its simplest form, is just trying to provide solutions for things like homelessness next to multi-million-dollar campuses. That has got to be one of the most oxymorons ever. It's just so strange, but we see that all throughout Baltimore. So I hope that kind of answers your question. That space was chosen simply because I have ties there artistically, and it's just kind of like a perfect space for that kind of event, community-based event. However, I would say my experience as an educator throughout Baltimore City also kind of gives me that drive and that passion as well, because that's just one intersection. But there are many intersections in Baltimore City, as you know, that are very similar. And I had the opportunity to teach at pretty much every single rec center that Baltimore City has to offer. And if anyone is familiar with Baltimore City, a lot of these rec centers are at intersections that are just like West North Ave and Howard, right? Just having that emotional impact every time I go to teach, it was just like, okay, I could be upset about this, I could be angry about this, but what am I going to do with this anger and with this passion? A lot of times our anger and our emotions get misplaced, and I want it to be kind of a catalyst for that change rather than me kind of just harboring it.
Like a springboard.
Yeah. Like, oh, this is what I do with this emotion. I don't just keep it to myself and get angry.
Get angry with everybody.
Are we a part of the problem or solution? It kind of just boils that down to those two things.
Absolutely. Wow. So that's so cool. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this forever. So with your rec centers and the education that you provide, what's the type of education that you do provide when you go into the rec centers to people that are there, and a little bit about the demographic that is there when you're able to teach? And is it like to the public? What type of people are drawn to those types of places?
So fresh out of high school, I had the opportunity to work with an organization. It's called Beyond the Natural Foundation. And one of the administrators, they recommended me for that position. And I teach music production and piano. And it's catered to like elementary, middle schoolers. So we go into specific like school zones, and then we'll teach at the rec center. And usually it's whichever school is the closest, you'll get those students that come there. So you'll have babies that are like 5, and then you'll have like kids that are like 13. So the demographic, like age wise, can get pretty wide. But then during the summertime, we also do a similar program, but we'll have the parents come out sometimes. So that's really, really cool, because it's when it comes to extracurriculars, I don't have children, but I have a lot of siblings. So when I have kind of an understanding of why it's important when parents really take the time to invest their time and their money in extracurricular activities. And not only do that, but teaching like private lessons as well, because I do teach music, like production, piano, and drums privately. Having the parents be involved is so important. It's not enough to just spend the money on the extracurricular activity, right? Having your parent there as a support system is so important. So we have the opportunity to serve underserved communities, because a lot of times when we're going to these spaces again, there is a lot of poverty in that area. So it's really been a journey to create my own perspective about these areas, right? Because at the end of the day, they're babies, and these are the cards that they were dealt. So sometimes you'll see kids that are very, very, very into it because it is music. And then having the opportunity just to have their parents come out and have their parents kind of learn the skill set and have them kind of connect on that level is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And when you think about music and these underserved communities, they're pulling music programs out of schools, and there aren't as many opportunities to get into music, which there's studies where the music and your brain and your learning, like it all goes hand in hand. So
yes,
to be able to have some type of access to that is absolutely amazing. I could see you do, you know, Jimmy Fallon? You watch Jimmy Fallon? Yeah. So you know how he does the songs with the preschool?
Yes.
It would be so much fun if you did that and just put it out
awesome.
everywhere.
No, and it's so true, because and I didn't make this. I'm pretty sure somebody else made this. I've only been here for 24 years. But I always will say, like, music is really a universal language that speaks to people of all walks of life. it's just one of those things that just it has that draw and that pull to really just pull us all together. It's just one of those things. It's
Yeah.
undeniable. It's infectious. So it's a great opportunity to be able to provide that. And as you stated, having that being, underfunded or funding being taken away from it
Yeah.
is kind of like, it's very concerning. It's very concerning.
Absolutely. Yep. It is. And then, when you think about a community that's underserved and, where the median income is lower, and those are the places that need it the most. And unfortunately, it's like a trickle down effect with funding from everywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that there are people like yourselves that are really helping. So, and what you do with your nonprofit, how have people come up to you and offered help? And where have you been able to reach out to others to help your community, and so you can serve better as an individual when you have more people coming together?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And fundraising is something, it's a skill set within itself. And you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier how sometimes for women, that's not like our forte,
Yeah.
right?
Unfortunately.
So it has been an interesting journey only because part of my naivete was that people would just want to give, right? This makes sense. Like you're going to want to give money for this,
Why wouldn't
right?
you? Absolutely.
And the reality is politics are real, right? There are people that I've met and that I brought the proposal to that immediately just like fell in love with the idea and they wanted to help, and maybe that's an in-kind donation
Hmm.
or maybe that is monetary. Obviously, monetary is going to be the number one ask because it costs money to do community-based events. It costs money to do community outreach. But just on a positive note, I have gotten a lot of positive feedback from, I would say, local businesses and local organizations that really do want to take the time, Sue being one of them, Sue Goo, that do want to take the time to make that connection and build exceptional rapport with the community, right? So they're doing everything that they can do, whether that be monetary, in kind, or just their time to speak with the public. So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback and just feedback that helped me kind of approach it in a more strategic manner, right? Because one thing about politics is understanding that people want reciprocity. So if you're talking to like a large corporation, they're going to want to look and see, well, what have you done for our business, right? And it's not always the case, but a lot of the times it's that way. It's like, I'm just a kid that just thought that this would be a good idea and that you would want to help us with this. But at the end of the day, they're like, well, you haven't really closed X amount of deals with us, or you haven't really, right? So that was the harsh reality going into it the first time. I was just like, silly me. I live in reality, right? So that was one of the more challenging parts, I would say, having to ask people for their help. Obviously, we prospect as agents, so picking up the phone wasn't the challenge, but I take it a little more personal. When someone says no, I don't want to interview another agent, or no, I don't want to sell my house because such and so did X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, like people say no all the time. I'm going to do my best to handle the objection. But when someone tells you no because you haven't done business with them, that to me is like, okay, I don't know how to handle that objection.
Right.
So I had to learn to pivot and kind of dig deeper within and see people that I've already built rapport with and see if there's any way that they would be able to help. Because honestly, I didn't want to go to the public and ask them, invest in something that is for them. I think we have way more than enough resources out here than to have to go to the public and ask them. So yeah, just kind of going to lender friends, little friends, local businesses that I shop with, and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. How are you able to help? These are things that we need. Can you provide pens? Can you provide paper? Can you provide monetary donations? So that's helped a lot, and making my own personal investment as well.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
can't do this and not. I'm asking others and not having my own foot in. So I'm definitely making my own personal investment as well. Yeah.
Sure. And I mean, just the time alone, honestly,
Yeah.
you know?
I didn't know. I just didn't know.
Oh my goodness, that's definitely worth something for sure. So,
Yeah.
okay, so when we're talking about the investment and talking about partners and asking for help and other ways to raise money and to help the community, have there been any events that you have connected to music that has been like a like a community fundraiser slash event slash party type of a deal that you've been able to get sponsors for and maybe pay at the door or some other way to get donations for the nonprofit?
That is an approach that I just haven't thought of. The past two community events we did, at the end we had a performance. So it would be 2 or 3 local artists. I would be a part of lineup and we would perform, just because I think, as we mentioned earlier, artistic expression is kind of essential for a sustainable and healthy community. So the idea was kind of having that artistic expression. I know the last event we had a lot of painters and we had the performers, but I didn't flip it to say, well, how about we use this as kind of the cornerstone and use this as the fundraiser? So these are things that, just like being new to this, I had to learn that, be strategic in your fundraising approaches. So that's something that I will have to take note of and see how we can kind of build it out from there.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's hard too, because, when there's such a huge need, I think it's hard just to keep in mind that every dollar counts, because you feel like it's so overwhelming and it's like, there's this big goal. Or do you have like a big goal for the community that you're currently working on that, that you're trying to save up for or pick out, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the largest goal, you know how people be like, think really big, like think scary big.
Yeah.
This is my think scary big goal. So the goal that I have in mind is developing a community that is primarily owned by colored people, right? Marginalized groups, buildings, commercial buildings, residential buildings with products that are owned by people of color. And the reason why that's one of my large, scary, big goals is because when we as a community, Black community, face challenges like, oh, we're going to boycott Amazon or we're going to boycott Target, our only option is to go to another business that's also owned by another Caucasian person, which is not a problem. I'm not saying I don't love Target. I love Target. I'm going to be back this week. I go every week and I feel guilty saying it, but the reason why is because that's my only option.
Right.
So I want to be able to create options for our community where if we do want to keep the dollar circulating within our community, we can do that. And that literally starts with us creating a Target of our own, creating a CVS that probably would be more like a holistic wellness center of our own, where we could choose products that are made by people that look like us so that we can start supporting one another. So that is my big scary goal. And actually right now I've had the opportunity to start a monthly series at a space here. I believe it's off 36th Street by Mama Coco's. It's actually a floor above Mama Coco's. And we'll be doing our own version of like a buyer's workshop, but afterwards we're going to have like a legacy lab where we're bringing all the professionals together that have kind of are in alignment with this goal. So we'll have we have an architectural designer he's very, very passionate about the same aim. And then we'll have a financial advisor. We'll have insurance broker. So we're just kind of creating a blueprint of what that would look like, what it's going to take, and who else we would need on the team. That's a very long-term goal. Like I would say minimum 10 years before we see anything tangible. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I think it's, you're going to have, working backwards, you're going to have milestones along that way, and you're going to have these wins leading up to it. So I'm so excited to follow that and to see, every step of the way. That's fantastic. So with Camille, and I know that you have a lot of many different hats, where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. 5 years, I would like to see myself less hands-on a day-to-day real estate transactions. I would like to see myself more outside in the community. Right now we're doing month to month, monthly series, but I really want to be like, I enjoy being outside speaking to people. So I want to see more of that, more community cleanups, more connected with the locals and asking them what they need, finding a way to give them what they need. I would like to be more on just like of a social entrepreneur, because I feel like right now in my real estate career, real estate is very demanding. And you have to take the time to build your business to a point where you can take a step back, where you can possibly hire help, where you can coach somebody. Like you have to go through years and years to earn the title of a coach. Like, you can't just become a coach in real
Right.
estate. You can't go through a couple years like, yeah, I'm ready to show somebody the ropes, right? So 5 years from now, that's what that's what I see for myself as having the financial freedom to take a step back from real estate, maybe offer that as a resource, maybe offer that as hopefully maybe even a class. I don't know how it would transform because real estate is essential for our community. But I would really like to be more in an organization and more of like leading in that role, because I feel like we need more leaders that are going to be able to put the time in for that long-term 10-year goal. So I would like to really have my head in the book, study more about what it's going to take to get that done, and use my real estate really as a tool to get it done. And then also as an artist, I would like to have the opportunity to work on projects. And there a lot of what I do as an artist, it does speak to my aim as just like a social entrepreneur and as a realtor. So I have the opportunity to really just express myself artistically and work on projects. That's where I see myself 5 years from now.
I love it. I love it. And I love that phrase. Did you coin that phrase, social entrepreneur? I love it.
No, honestly, I think it's a new thing. I
New
learned
thing,
it
yeah.
as like, you know how you're like just Googling the same thing over and over again and you keep seeing this. I'm like, I think this is a real term. Like, I'm like, oh, I thought I just wanted to help the community, but I really want to do this as a career. So I don't know who coined it, but it's the perfect term for the career path that I would like to have. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's fantastic. So you and we met like through programs that we serve in the community, Baltimore County, Baltimore City. So with the leadership in these programs that you and I are both a part of, have you been able to think of them as mentors and follow in their footsteps and what they do for the community to get some ideas, and they've paved the path for you, would you say?
Yeah. Certainly. I have a lot of mentors, some of which they don't even know they're my mentor. But I do have I have great mentorship. The first and second nonprofit that I had the opportunity to work with, both of the directors have been elemental in just helping me to create an approach for myself and seeing what they're doing in the community and seeing how they've been able to create longevity for themselves and create an impact. So I would definitely say Sarah G, that was the first director of the first nonprofit that I worked with. She was with Believe in Music. She's been awesome. When that nonprofit had unfortunately dissolved, I was one of the only ones that she actually recommended to work with Beyond the Natural Foundation. And the founder is Robert Levine, the third. And so he's been very elemental in helping me as a young person just navigate just like my career as someone who does want to make a difference, as an artist, and just extremely patient, because like he started working with me when I was like 19, and I just think about some of the things like I would just ask, and I'm just like, these are silly questions, or like just being very patient with my process is just getting into my adulthood. So these are two people that I would say as leaders have kind of cultivated my own mentality about how I want to approach things. And then I would say my real estate mentor, Timothy Dominic, he is like he's like a beast, right? So the way that he approaches his real estate business, because sometimes people get into real estate and they make it a job for themselves.
Yeah.
And you as a coach, you're going to help people learn how to make it a business. And that's something that he's taught me working with him. I've only been working with him for about a year. He's one of those people, like, you know how the saying goes, like, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So having him as one of my 5 people has been so important, because he makes you feel inadequate if you're not working when you're around him. Right. And it's not because he's condescending, and it's not because he's going to tell you that you should be doing anything.
Right.
It's because he's doing something and you see that it's working for him.
Right.
Right. So he's like subliminally making suggestions as what your day might look like if you wanted to be successful. And his approach to coaching has been like phenomenal when it comes to me understanding leadership, because I've watched his business grow as well over the past year, and him hire on actual employees for his business. So I've been able to watch how he interacts with his employees and how his patience has been so important. So it's his patience and his expertise have helped me in my real estate career, which I will also think kind of spills into like helping me as an overall social entrepreneur. So I would say those people, and of course, like my parents, got to give it up for my parents and my grandparents. They have been like leaders and very elemental in my growth as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's true. We always, whether we have parents that really give us that path to follow, that example, or if we have parents that teach us what we shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It's still both equally,
Yeah.
educational.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think most of the time we get a little bit of both. I don't think
Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
don't think you
sure.
ever get the perfect parent because you don't get the
No.
perfect human. And
Yep.
I think my parents
And
have been.
we're not. We're exactly. We're not
I'm not
perfect.
perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not even striving for that. I'm just trying to get day to day, trying to do the best that I can. And
Yep.
my parents, my stepfather, he's been like a serial entrepreneur ever since I was a kid, and he now owns
Oh,
two residential rehab centers.
that's
So
fantastic.
he's like always been entrepreneur, always been just like hustling ever since I can remember. And it's like as a kid, you don't realize like through the process of osmosis how you're taking that in. So I've learned that from him. And then my mother, she was always a teacher. So I didn't realize I was kind of learning that from her, how to speak to people, how to show people how to do things. And so they've definitely poured into me, and both of my parents actually were in music. My father, he was a writer, poet, a rapper, and my mother, she's a gospel artist. They've been very influential to say.
Awesome. I love some gospel music for sure.
I got a good playlist. I'm gonna send you my playlist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Did you hear Carrie Underwood's album?
No, I didn't.
She
Is it good?
finally did a gospel album. I've been, wanting. She finally did all.
I'm gonna have to tap
songs.
in.
Amazing. So, if you were to speak to government leaders, people that could help in these areas in Baltimore City that need it so much, what would you say to them?
That's a phenomenal question. If I were to speak to government officials that could help the communities in Baltimore, what would I say? I would, you know what? I would ask them if they could visit us.
I love that. Yeah, see it for themselves. I think all cities have their highs and lows, but in Baltimore, it's just very, very amplified. We have this block is this way. You may drive to the next block. It can be completely different. And unfortunately, we have these blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of board ups, that unfortunately not a lot has been done. I think that there are a lot of people out there that do want to help. I have been exposed to a lot of people as well that do want to help, like investors. And I feel like this year they're doing more now than I've ever seen before, which is great. But, I've seen people that have wanted to help in the past, and there has been so much red tape that they just say, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
I see the opportunity here. I see where I could help the community. I see where I could make money as an investor as well. And it would be a win-win. But I have seen people sometimes shy away just because of the roadblocks and the red tape that you have to run up against. So I would love to continue to see that break down and being better and better and better for people to come into these areas. I mean, there's an area right by Hopkins where an investor bought like blocks and blocks. Completely renovated it, had parking, blew everything apart, made it absolutely amazing, and turned them into condos and offered shuttles to Johns Hopkins. It was great, so for people to be able to accomplish those projects in Baltimore City to revitalize these neighborhoods would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And I think they need to see that. Like you said, some of what we see on a regular, because it's kind of almost desensitizing when you see it all the time.
Right. And then you're like, there's nothing you can do, nothing you can do. Yeah.
We need them to come see it. And we need them, like you said, to see how some of the regulations and some of the obstacles that they have created are keeping us from building up the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right. So any last minute thoughts from you on any of the things that we've talked about? I think that we've had a great conversation.
Yeah, I think we had an awesome conversation. If I were to leave with any one thing, it would be a challenge to, shameless plug, build exceptional rapport with every individual you meet. And genuinely, because it makes a difference when we take the time to try to understand someone versus labeling them. That's something that I've been trying to instill within myself and within those in my community, that everyone has the opportunity to perpetuate societal norms. So it's up to each individual to really break down that barrier mentally and approach this person with the utmost respect and not assume that you know someone or not assume that that person thinks this, that, or third of you. That's really how we break down these social barriers and we create a paradise of some sort here.
Yeah, totally. And to, celebrate our wins and celebrate, the things that are happening. I think especially like with the news, and everybody wants to put the shock factor out there, on social media. And in doing that, unfortunately, it's a lot of negativity. So also like celebrating the wins, celebrating the good things of, relationships that you make, and just, the barriers that come down. And I love your idea about just, products that are made by the community that can be sold to the community, like that type of thing. I love it. I think it's fantastic. So I think one other challenge that we could throw out there would be, we could challenge every single real estate agent in Baltimore City and Baltimore County to donate a portion of their commission to your cause,
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Donate what you want, right? Give me $5,
Absolutely.
give me $500. I mean,
yeah. Absolutely. I think our community likes to see that we care too as agents. Because sometimes we're like so caught up in the transaction, it's like people matter. And when we're working with people in the community, a lot of the time, like it's the small ones. It's not always the biggest commissions that mean the most. Right? So showing people that you really care about them and their family, and about them finding something that they deem suitable is so important. And also being able to break down that barrier allows us to learn. Because that's another thing that I had to express when I'm like teaching is like, guys, let's not make this a black and white thing. My mentor is Italian. And that's just what he is. It doesn't matter to me. Right. He could be green.
Because he was Italian, you're like,
I don't care what the person is. Right. I'm here I want to approach everybody with a level of humility that God has given me, right? Like, I'm very humble. I have no reason not to be, especially being young, especially being new to this. So it's like, I want to be able to learn from individuals, and I can't do that if I have that barrier, if I think they think this, or if I think this about them. So like you said, approaching people with a winning mentality, trying to highlight those positives, and also just allowing yourself an opportunity to learn, whether that be from a child or a very seasoned adult.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very awesome, fresh perspective. And I think we definitely need that in our community. And I'm glad you're in our community. I'm glad that I met you, and I'm glad that we did today. And I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship and helping any way I can.
Likewise, it's been a great opportunity meeting you and being a part of your podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to the next time, because you're going to be back on.
Yes, ma'am.